Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for coming for the Sunday feast. I see a lot of new faces. Thank you very much. So let's. So this is my first class. So please forgive me for any mistakes, and then probably the flow might not be that great as other senior speakers here. And this Vyasasan, a lot of senior devotees have sat here, so I'm so humbled to sit in this and be in front of you all. Thank you. So I chose this Vaishnava Acharya series, Srinivas Acharya. There's a lot more to talk, but I selected only just two pastimes. So before we go on, we'll do Mangalachan prayers and then we'll go on the class. So, Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjala Shalakaya Shakshurum Nilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guru Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamanyam Kadatvi Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Pada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Cham Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Cha Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Vacha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So for next 45 minutes, we'll discuss on why I chose the topic, some context and background. We'll talk about two pastimes on starting off the mission, Krishna Consciousness Mission, and the first Gaura Purnima festival, right? And then if there is time, we'll do some reviews on some inspirations and stuff like that. And then if there is time, we'll do Q&A where I'll be asking questions and you can answer that. So this is Gita 7:16. Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukrutino arjuna artho jignashu artati jani sa bharatarishava. So you might be wondering what is this verse related to the topic, right? So 2015, sometime in October, November, so first time I came to ISKCON Columbus class. I was sitting there, and Premvilas Prabhu was giving this class, and he was giving a description about this verse. So basically, the translation here is like, "O best among the Bharatas, four kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute." So I go that night to home, and then I see, where do I fall? Do I fall in any of these categories? Right? So I know I've been in, nobody is there without any distress. I've gone through so many distress in my life, but my ego was high. I would still say it's still high. So I didn't want to come and pray, right? And then like, well, it's okay. I'm in US. I'm in satisfied situation. Inquisitive, I didn't know. And then search of knowledge, absolutely not, right? So then I thought, okay, let's see what Krishna says in the previous verse, right? He says, those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. And I thought maybe I fall in one or two categories here. Then I said, okay, what does Krishna say next, right? Of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotion service is the best. For I am very dear to him and he is very dear to me. Okay, so there are three sections that Krishna describes. He's not saying who all come to me, but he also says who don't come to me and then who is best among them, right? So I felt this was interesting. Then we started coming to temple regularly, and I come closer to the altar. And I'm from South India, by the way. I've never been exposed to Gauranitai, so I don't know what that means, who those are. So it was like for me, newer version of deities there. And then I come and see all the pictures in the altar. I didn't recognize any of them, and many times I've heard about them, the classes going on, but I cannot remember who they are. And then because of Jagannath Puri is popular, yes, I can understand these deities. So this is what was going on in my mind, and I've been attending classes. A lot of speakers come, and they say all these names, right? You say so many names there. Nityananda Prabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srinivas Acharya, Raghunath Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Swarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami. All these names keep coming to my ears all the time. I'm like, what is happening here? Who are all these? Like, so, yeah, we grew up seeing Mahabharata, Ramayana. My parents were pious, and my grandfather used to tell me all Mahabharata stories when I was young. He was a Vaishnava family as well. So I have not heard any of these names, right? So I'm bewildered. But then I found out that I've been a little curious about these things. So I said, okay, I fall under one category, inquisitive. So then become a little serious about, okay, I need to come regularly, hear regularly, listen regularly, and we take part in this, right? So then we got attracted to so many speakers here, and then I asked Kalakanta Prabhu at the time, oh, I want to know about the six Goswamis, right? He suggested some reading materials. I read about them, and then there was a series by Amrendra Prabhu about there were like 12-part series about six Goswamis. So that gave me a little bit of understanding and inspiration as well, right? So then I asked Navin Krishna Prabhu here, where are all these personalities coming from, right? Like I've not heard about these before, and then he said, oh, there's a lot of things are in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he said, okay, it's a little advanced, and it's very hard to understand. So you need to start from the foundation. So, okay, but it says advanced, and most of the speakers talk about advanced topics. But here I am, and there are so many people like me who are just beginners, and there's so much gap, right? Uh, so so then I thought, okay, how do I address this gap, right? Like at least for personally for me, right? I need to be elevated to that level to understand what they are saying, and nothing wrong about the speakers. The speakers all they give the context and they try to talk to the level of audience, but it's very hard to convince all the audience, right? Like audience are at a different level, and so trying to meet all of their requirements and at that level is always challenging. So anyway, then pandemic came. So Sutapa Prabhu's class at that time, Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj now. So he gave a Sunday feast class via Zoom, and so I heard. So I was not even paying attention directly, but I was walking in the kitchen and doing things, and I heard, and he said, "Oh, School of Bhakti, we are doing a CC compact." So basically, he said same context that by the time a lot of devotees reach Chaitanya Charitamrita, they don't reach that level. They start with Gita, they start with Bhagavatam, but then by the time they go to CC, it's too long, right? But then you always talk about Chaitanya Charitamrita, and people don't understand all that, right? So they said School of Bhakti in Manor, they are starting a CC compact class. I signed up for it, and it was a 8 weeks class last year. Again, to my knowledge, I could grasp whatever I could. It's been a year. I remember a whole lot of those. But then that gave me a good context about Gaudiya Vaishnavism, Krishna consciousness movement. How are we different between other Vaishnava traditions and overall good idea about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and our movement, right? So this is one slide from the CC Compact. So if you see, Prabhupada says, be sure and read my books very carefully. Bhagavad Gita, then Srimad Bhagavatam, then Chaitanya Charitamrita. You should read every day without fail and become fixed in our philosophy. So even Prabhupada recommends that order because you need to build the foundation and it's little advanced and you need to have the foundation to understand the rasa, tattva and lila that is explained in CC. So yesterday, Navin Krishna Prabhu in the home program, he explained those four things, right? Like Siddha, Tattva, Leela, and Rasa. Good. So we are not going to go into all that today. We're not going to go into see Chaitanya Charitamrita. But the three distinction is categorized here, right? Like Gita is foundational study. It's words of Krishna. Bhagavatam is activities of Krishna, right? The devotees, they go through a lot of reversals in the life and they approach Krishna and how they performed and demonstrated the devotional sense. Then CC is a postgraduate study. So Gita begins with, you are not the body, you are the eternal spirit soul. And it ends with, abandon all varieties of religion and surrender unto me. Bhagavatam starts with, reject all cheating religions and get to the essence, that's bhakti. And it ends with, chanting the holy name is a means to destroy all sinful reaction. Chaitanya Charitamrita begins with, I come to teach the process of chanting and practicing myself, and it ends with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu forgets himself throughout the entire day and night, being merged in the ocean of ecstatic devotion service. So if you see that as a progression, it starts with you're not the body, give up all kinds of religion, and Bhagavatam says, reject all cheating religion, and ends with holy name, and then CC is all about how to practice, right? So this gave me a good frame of, okay, why is there a progression between these three scriptures? So I put this word cloud, and then here is the Chaitanya Charitamrita tree, right? So I'm not going to go into all the details of the tree, but the three generations is what I want to focus on. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then the second generation, or the first generation would be the 6 Goswamis and the 3 devotees, the second generation. So the 3 Ds, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu he came to this world to demonstrate how to practice bhakti. The 6 Goswamis documented how to perform bhakti yoga. And the 3 devotees, the 3 heroes, distributed those books by whatever was documented, right? So when Mahaprabhu came in, he lived for 48 years in this world. His focus was mainly Sankirtan, right? He didn't focus on actually managing anything or organizing anything or even establishing, right? So he wanted somebody to do those establishments. So he sent Rupa and Sanatan to Vrindavan to mainly do those things, right? For a movement to move on, right, that should be establishment and all that has to be structured in a structured way. So that is what the main responsibilities of the Goswamis. So when they were sent to Vrindavan, there are 4 things that Mahaprabhu wanted them to do. One is write books, build temples. Third one is establish the culture and the etiquettes of being a Vaishnava. The fourth one is be a renunciate and demonstrate to the world how, because you still need few of them to focus on establishing those philosophies and documenting. And those are the 4. Maybe there are more, but these are the 4 things that we call out on what was Mahaprabhu's instructions to the Goswamis. So, Srinivas Acarya is my topic. Amit Prabhu, few weeks ago, he talked about Narottam Das Thakur. And Damodar Krishna Prabhu spoke about Shyamanand Pandit last year. So I thought, okay, that out of the 3, we already spoke about 2. So let's talk about Srinivasa Acharya so that we can complete the bottom line. And then Prem Vilas Prabhu spoke about Raghunath Das Goswami, two series like a month ago. So I think it will be a good idea since I put the series, right? We can go and deep dive on all these acharyas so that we can get a big picture about our lineage and from where we are coming and how we are connected, right? So that's the context. Uh, so there is also some more evidence or quotes on when I said document and distributed. I just wanted to read one expert from Prema Vilas. I'll talk about Prema Vilas is a book, and I'll talk a few words about it. But here it says, this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking to Lord Jagannath in Jagannath Puri, right? Meanwhile, in Nilachal, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to perform Kirtana in the courtyard of Jagannath temple. He folded his hands before Lord Jagannath and began to cry while uttering the name Srinivas, Srinivas. Lord Jagannath smiled, and so did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then prayed, "O Lord, you have fulfilled my desire. By your mercy, Chaitanya Das will have a brilliant son named Srinivas, who will perform many ecstatic pastimes and distribute love of God. Oh Lord, the two brothers, Rupa and Sanatan, will write books describing the blissful pastimes of Sri Radha Krishna. Srinivasa will take these books to Bengal to further expand his distribution of love of Krishna." So here Mahaprabhu, he is in Jagannath Puri, and he's praying, how do I spread this movement and back? And after his pastimes are done in this material world, so he started already planning, right? Goswamis, he said, okay, I'm going to send them to document, but I need somebody to distribute those, right? So he's already predicting those, and particularly, I'm not going to go into the pastimes of Srinivas Acharya's appearance. It's a beautiful pastime, um, uh, particularly Chaitanya Das, his parents, how he got Chaitanya Das' name, and all the incidents that happened for birth of Srinivas Acharya and his childhood pastimes, um, and then how he came to Vrindavan, right? So before we go to those two pastimes, I'm running out of time here, but I wanted to talk about why we need to hear about Vaishnava Acharya's pastime, right? So in a mundane sense, we all are human beings. We all like to hear about others, right? The social media is so popular because everybody is busy trying to learn or hear about what others are doing, right? So that's a natural inclination. And but what is the benefit of just doing for mundane purposes? We being practicing Vaishnavas, we are trying to practice. So instead of trying to know about mundane people, we can focus our time on knowing about our acharyas. So, can explain from it. Yeah, you can teach me. Yeah. Yeah, acharya means teacher, right? So teacher are the ones who practice what they preach as well. So that's mainly the acharyas, right? Um, so Vaishnava is basically it's a type of practice based on the Lord Vishnu, right? People who follow Lord Vishnu are Vaishnavas. There are much more different sectors in here, but we will focus on the teachers who came into the Vaishnava philosophy. So here is one quote. In the lives of the saintly person are rich with sweetness of loving service and are there for worth repeated study because they are most dear to Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Without such study, we'll never understand the nature of devotional service. By relishing the lives of great devotees, we become attracted by their compassion and develop an attraction for them. Since the Lord is kind to his devotees, this is a road to be becoming an object of his affection. To becoming an object of his affection. So anyway, we can meditate on this. We can all individually relate to how this quote connects to us, but um, there is no reference to this. But Shitala Mataji, she had given a class, and then in her class she said this quote, and she couldn't even remember, but we can find out from her. Um, so the second quote is, this is from Prema Vilas. Prema Vilas is nothing pastimes of love. This is written by Sri Nityananda Das, right? Who's Nityananda Das? Nityananda Das is disciple of Sri Janava Mata. Who's Janava Mata? Janava Mata is the wife of Nityananda, right? Um, so when Nityananda Das, in his young age, he was living in Shikanda village. He lost his parents very early on, and then Janava Mata came in his dream and said, "You come to me, I'll take care of you, I'll initiate you." So basically, he went to her and she initiated him, and that's why he got his name, Nityananda Das. And Nityananda Das was a personal servant of Janava Mataji, and he would travel with her, and he participated in a lot of these pastimes and events firsthand and documented, right? What happens in Vrindavan, what happened in Kichuri, what happened in West Bengal, and wherever Janamata traveled, he traveled. And then he wrote all these pastimes primarily focused on these three, Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivas Acharya, and Shamanand Pandit. Detailed descriptions are given in this book, Prema Vilas. Prema Vilas, you can actually download. It's available. Um, it's not available. It's not available for download, but it's in our Kindle book. So I downloaded it. I skimmed through it, a lot of it based on the YouTube videos and things like that. So a lot of detailed description. So here, the first quote here is saying like, pure devotees are able to relish Lord Krishna's ever sweet and loving pastimes at every moment of their lives. But we should know that Krishna is not complete without his devotees, and that Sri Krishna's pastimes are relishable only because he performs them with his devotees. Therefore, just as we relish hearing Krishna's pastimes, so we relish hearing about the devotees' pastimes. Hearing about the devotees' pastimes enables us to enter the Lord's divine pastimes because the devotees are so merciful. So, this is the context and background about importance of hearing about our Vaishnava Acharyas and just details on why I picked this topic. So, Srinivas Acharya, who is Srinivas Acharya in the spiritual world and in the material world, right? So his parents are Chaitanya Das and Lakshmi Priya, daughter of Balram Das. He was born in Shikandi village in around 1530s, right? His spiritual education was given by Narahari Sakar, who is also an associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Again, as I said, I'm not going to details of his childhood pastimes. We'll keep it for another session if I pass this test today. Generally, when as here it says, he performs his pastimes with his devotees. So his associates in Golok Vrindavan, they all descend to this material world to perform all the leelas. So Srinivas Acharya is Mani Manjari in Goloka, and Mani Manjari serves Guna Manjari. Guna Manjari serves Srimati Radharani, right? So in the material world, Srinivasa Acharya appeared, Mani Manjari appeared as Srinivasa Acharya, and Guna Manjari appeared as Gopala Bhatta Goswami. And Srinivasa Acharya is disciple of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Again, I don't want to go into the details of all this. Again, in the next class, we can talk about how Srinivasa Acharya got initiated by Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who was Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And there is nice pastimes about Mani Manjari and Guna Manjari and all. We'll keep it for a later class. So let's go to the pastimes. Hopefully I will be able to cover both. If not, we'll just do one. starting of the mission, right? So Vrindavan, now I did a lot of fast forward. Srinivas Acharya is already in Vrindavan. He meets Narottam Das Thakur and Shyamanand Pandit. When he comes to Vrindavan, first meets Jiva Goswami, and Jiva Goswami takes him to Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and Gopala Bhatta Goswami initiates him, and he gives him to responsibility to Jiva Goswami to do teachings, right? So he got Diksha, but his Siksha Guru is Jiva Goswami. Narottam Das Thakur was initiated by anybody who attended the class here last week? Loknath Maharaj, Loknath Goswami Maharaj. And about Shyamanand Pandit, initiated by? That is on the spiritual world, but here, Hriday Chaitanya. Hriday Chaitanya, right? Yeah. So his name was Dukhi Krishna, right? Initiated name. So these three, they built that rapport and relationship while they were studying all the Vaishnava philosophies under the leadership of Jiva Goswami. When Srinivas Acharya came to Vrindavan, he wanted to come and see Rupa and Sanatan. But time has passed, like they were not there. Sanatan Goswami left, followed by that Rupa Goswami also left. And all these Goswamis were getting older and they were leaving. And they had given this responsibility to Jiva Goswami to finish their work. So Jiva Goswami, his responsibility was, how do I transfer all these materials that have been written? There are like 100,000 verses of scriptures, literatures have been written. And he's coming up with an idea or a plan. In the meantime, Janava Mataji, she's sending a message to Jiva Goswami saying that you all went to Vrindavan and we are here, we are eagerly waiting on reading what has been documented. So please send those materials quickly. Because here, after Mahaprabhu left, and after Nityananda Prabhu left, and after Swarup Damodar left, and so many associates left, there were some different groups started forming, and they all wanted to refer to what the Goswamis had documented so they can all unite and follow. So one fine morning, Jiva Goswami invites these three disciples, right? And then he says, Srinivas, Narottam, and Dukhi Krishna, you are going to leave Vrindavan. You're going to take all these books and go to Bengal and distribute them and create copies and distribute them. They were shocked because it's not easy to live Vrindavan. They were all together. They had all this sweet pastimes and they had all this experience. So anyway, that's spiritual master's instruction and they have to follow it. So here is one inspiration for us, right? That's the wish of spiritual master and they accepted it. They had faith. All these three, they didn't know what they were getting into. It's a long distance and it's a big responsibility, right? In those days, we don't have any backup facilities, right? So one single copy that was available, that was written by these Goswamis. And the journey from Vrindavan to Bengal is not a safe journey. So there's no backup, there's no cloud backup, there's no hard disk, there's no printed copy, nothing. There's just one copy. So Jiva Goswami is a mastermind here, right? So he had one of his disciples, he's a rich merchant from Mathura. He gave a bullock cart, and all these books were packed in two big boxes, wrapped around with tight cloths and wax, coated with wax so they don't get damaged. They were given 4 bulls and 10 bodyguards. So 3 sadhus, 10 bodyguards, 4 bull and a cart and a 2 box of books leave Vrindavan, right? So anyway, they leave Vrindavan and they go like 3 months like that without any incidents, right? Then I was so happy. Oh, we are already reaching the border of Bengal. In few more days, we'll reach, and then we'll be good. But they have been very tired. Jiva Goswami, he actually gave them all travel documents. They gave them all the money that they need, uh, so that journey can be comfortable, right? So one night they reached to this village, borders of village called Gopalapur, on the borders of Vanavishnupur. And they said, okay, we want to take rest here. Usually when they take rest, they take turns. But that day, all the four bulls, they went and slept. They were allowed to rest. All the 10 bodyguards also rested, and all the three sadhus also rested. Everybody rested. And the next day morning, they wake up, Srinivas Acharya and Narottam Das Prabhu, they couldn't find the books. Books were stolen. Imagine, right? Only one copy, huge responsibility that they have been documented, and those last of Goswamis are already left. 100,000 versions of scriptures, now they are shell shocked. What do they tell to their spiritual masters? Anyway, they had to send a message back. They didn't have WhatsApp that time, so they still sent a letter to Jiva Goswami, who was lost. And I'm going to talk about Vanavishnupur a little bit there. So there's a king named King Vihambir. He, during the day, he is the king, and in the night, he does all these plans to say, hey, why do I go and steal? Right? He has a bunch of dacoits, and there is an astrologer aiding him in all this. Astrologer is a foreteller, right? So he looks at the planetary situation, the stars, and then he tells. So basically, the astrologer always tells the king, okay, here is the place where you can go and you can do your dacoitry stuff, and then you can steal and do the looting and all that stuff. So this same astrologer, a few weeks ago, he predicted there are three sadhus coming with a bullock cart full of most valuable items in the boxes. He didn't know, the astrologer didn't know what it was inside. And then they come with 10 bodyguards, but they will rest in this village this night. You can go and steal from them, right? So based on this prediction, Virhambir, he sends his dacoits to go and steal from them. So dacoits, since they saw these sadhus, they didn't want to attack them, and they were following and they were waiting for a good opportunity for them to steal. So now you can connect, right? This night, they all rested without knowing that there is a bunch of dacoits that have been following them for a few days. And so happened, they slept, the dacoits found out that everybody is sleeping, and they took the books and then went to the king, to the palace. The king opens it, instead of finding jewels, coins, and everything, they found these books. So the king realized, what did we do, right? So anyway, so they kept it in the locker, and then they said, okay, somebody is going to come here to retrieve, but I'm not going to destroy anything or do anything with it, and kept it there. So the days goes by. The three, what are their disciples or devotees? They decide, okay, Srinivas Acharya took a lead there and said, okay, Narottam Das Thakur, you go to Bengal, and Smaranam Pandit, you go to Orissa. You continue with your mission of preaching. I will stay back here until I find the books. Once I find the books, I'll come back. Right? So he's searching with limited capacity, whatever he could do. He meets a Brahmin, and the Brahmin says, you look so learned. Why don't you come to our kingdom? So the king, in the meantime, since he saw all these books, he had a change in his heart, and then he started reading Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So he had a Vaishnava, a priest, to give discourses about Bhagavatam in his palace every day. So that has been going on for a few days, and then this Brahmin brings Srinivas Acharya to the same facility. And Srinivas Acharya comes here and he's so unhappy on what he's seeing that this Vaishnava, the Brahmin, who's talking about Srimad Bhagavatam, is all, whatever he's saying is not appropriate, right? And then he starts correcting, and then the Vaishnava who's doing the class, he gets upset, right? Like, so who you, Brahmin? We have not seen you here before, and you are now coming here and you're trying to correct me. So this goes on for a few days, and then one day the king says, no, I want that Brahmin came here to talk about Bhagavatam, right? So anyway, Rasalila section comes, and Srinivasacharya, since he was instructed by Jiva Goswamis and all the Goswamis, he gives an excellent description about Rasalila. The king gets impressed, and then he gives the responsibility to Srinivasacharya to do this Bhagavatam class every day in his palace. So after a few days, they build this relationship, and the king asks Srinivasacharya, who are you? Right? We have not seen you before, and you're doing this wonderful service, and you are so knowledgeable and all that. Then Srinivasacharya, he tells a story about how they came and what happened. Okay? So the king takes them to the palace locker and then shows them the books. So that's it, right? Like, so Srinivasacharya's life came back because basically the main mission is all about stored in the books. And finally he found the books, became so ecstatic and so happy. He sent the message back to Jiva Goswami. It was a big festival there in Vrindavan that all the books were found. And then he messages Narottam Das Thakur and Shyamanan Pandit that everything is recovered, and he takes all the books and he goes to Bengal. And Shyamanan Pandit, he helps in copying all these books, multiple copies. The books are given to Janava Mataji. So in the meantime, this king has a change in heart, and he realizes his mistake, and he begs for forgiveness, and he becomes a full-fledged bona fide Vaishnava there. He becomes a disciple of Srinivasacharya. He gets initiated. His wife gets initiated. His son gets initiated. Whole of his kingdom all become Vaishnavas, right? So I even read that chanting was a mandatory process for everybody in the kingdom. And the king had a tab on who doesn't chant. And then they are also punished for them to be chanting regularly. So anyway, there is more and more stories about the king, and then how he was instrumental in spreading Krishna consciousness as well for generations to come, right? So anyway, I'm going to try to talk about the second pastime in the next 5-10 minutes because it's also some degree important. So anyway, fast forward now again. Narottam Das Thakur is in Bengal, Shyamanand Pandit is in Orissa, and Srinivas Acharya is also in Bengal. Srinivas Acharya comes, he gets married, and then he continues his Sankirtan movement and preaching and all that. One day in the dream of Srinivas Acharya and Narottam Das Thakur, Mahaprabhu comes, and he says, okay, it's time for a festival. So Srinivas Acharya, he decides to go to Keturi, that is where Narottam Das Thakur stays, and they come up with the idea of, hey, we are seeing this movement drifting again, right? A lot of Vaishnavas who are followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they're still having different groups. Panchatattwas, and there were different groups, and they didn't have a good understanding of what those positions are. Who's Advaita Acharya? What is the position of each of those acharyas, right? And who do we follow, and what is the right practice of following? So in the meantime, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has written Chaitanya Charitamrita, and basically the idea was we need to bring Chaitanya Charitamrita here and establish that as the doctrine of what is about Vaishnava philosophy, right? About Gaudiya Vaishnavism as well. So they decided, okay, we are going to this Falgun Purnima, we will do a big festival, and Santosh Datta, who is the cousin of Narottam Das Thakur. So Narottam Das Thakur's dad, I know Narottam Das Thakur, he was a prince, right? He was a king, he was a rich person. When he came in, his dad came back from Vrindavan. His dad was already sick. So instead of giving the kingdom and wealth and all that to Narottam Das Thakur, he gave to his nephew. So that is Santosh Datta. So Santosh Datta said, I'll sponsor for this whole event and whole festival. Let's go ahead and do that. And I have 6 deities. Sorry. I have 6 deities, and we wanted to install all those 6 deities on this Purnim. And then that will be a big festival. So Srinivas Acharya and Narottam Das Thakur, they draft the first invitation for Gaur Purnima, right? It's a long invitation. It's all with Bengali poetries. And Chaturmas Prabhu, who has given this class, he researches about all these Vaishnava acharyas, and then he has a series of YouTube videos, Chaturatma, right? So they are trying to find out if they can find the original version of this invitation. Obviously, I don't know. It's very hard to find out that, I guess. But anyway, they sent out this invitation to different villages, to different Vaishnavas. Still, there are a lot of Mahaprabhu's associates are present in the world. They invited everybody. Special invitation goes to Janava Mataji as well. Janava Mata also had Nityananda Prabhu come in the dream and tell that this festival is going to be there. We are going to descend back in this world during the festival time. Right? So everybody gets ready. Janava Mataji comes in a special palanquin to Keturi, and Shyamanand Pandit also comes back. Right? He was in Orissa. Imagine these 3 devotees, they meet after a long time. Right? That's the loving relationship, loving exchange. Right? These pastimes that you read, all the details, they describe in the details of how these acharyas, these Vaishnavas, they had this culture of loving exchange and reciprocating, respecting, and honoring each other, and so many lessons that you can learn, right? And that is how they established this movement as well. So anyway, the day comes in the morning, and Srinivas Acharya's strengths are on pujas, deity services, establishing deities, and all those rituals as well. While Narottam Das Thakur was mainly on bhajans, kirtan, so forth. So under the instructions and the guidance of Janama Mata, the whole ceremony begins. Again, instruction, right? Like inspiration, right? So when you are ready to start on a holy activity or any spiritual related stuff, you always get blessings and initiation from the most senior devotee available there. So anyway, I see if I had the notes of all those 6 deities' names, right? Sri Gauranga, Sri Vallabhi Kanta, Sri Brajamohan, it's not there, Brajamohan, Sri Krishna, Sri Radha Kanta, and Sri Radha Ramana, right? Of these 6 deities, 5 of them are still there. I think one deity which was sent to East Bengal, Bangladesh, there was Sri Krishna is lost. But I heard Gauranga deity is in outside of Mayapur, and Sri Braj is in Vrindavan. One deity is in Mayapur, and there's one more deity in Jagannath Puri. Right, so still these deities are there. So there's a lot more details into how these festival actually happens, right? So there's so much deity installation, and there's exchange of the flowers, the prasadam, and all that. And then in the night, Narottam Das Thakur's kirtan starts. He starts with the bhajan, the details of who is the mridanga player, what songs he sang, what tunes he did, And then when he changed the meter, every single detail is written in this book, Prema Vilas. And then there's what I forgot about another book as well there. Let me see if I can. Bhakti Ratnaka, right? And also in Narottam Vilas, um, these books have all the details of all this pastime. So anyway, that night after all the deity installation, all this kirtan starts. Janava Mataji gives instructions to do the holy, and so they all do the color pujas and color festivals, and all that also happens. And so much ecstasy in the mood, we forgot about the main thing. When the kirtan was happening, the Panchatatvas descend. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes, Nityananda Prabhu comes, Advaita Acarya comes, and every Swarup Damodar comes. Even Haridas Thakur also comes, right? So Janava Mataji seeing her husband, she gets into so much ecstasy and cries. And all these three devotees, Srinivas Acharya, um, Srinivas Acharya has particularly not seen Mahaprabhu. So he gets an opportunity to see Mahaprabhu. They embrace, and before Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu left, they gave some instructions directly into the ears of Srinivas Acharya and Narottam Das Thakur. So anyway, after that, while the kirtan was going on and it was finishing, they went back again. So this whole village, there were a lot of people, they were all transformed and they couldn't believe what they saw during the night, right? So anyway, that is how the first Gaura Purnima festival happened. And next day morning, this kirtan went up to Mangalarati. And after Mangalarati was done, Janava Mata personally cooked prasadam and she personally served to all the devotees and all the visitors who had come to the festival. There's so much details that has given on hospitality there, right? Like how each of the associates, each of the Vaishnavas who had come to participate in the festival, how they were taken care of. They had given personal servants, they were given rooms, they were engaged. All the details are available in the book. So anyway, the time is running short. I want to wrap up here. So my goal was to talk about these two, right? How did the mission start? And we talk about these three devotees, Srinivas Acharya, Narottam Das Thakur, and Shamanand Pandit. So we complete that story and what they went through in preserving the books and the hurdles they had and how the books were recovered. Because of that incident today, because it was recovered and because of the translation, we are able to relish and get inspiration and get this knowledge from all those, right? And since we are going to have our Gaura Purnima festival in a week, so I thought giving a prelude on the first Gaura Purnima festival, Srinivas Acharya and Narottam Das Thakur co-chaired the program, and it was wonderful. Since then, 500 years ago, this tradition has been continuing, and 1972 was the first ISKCON Mayapur Gaura Purnima festival. So this year would be the 50th year of festival in Mayapur as well. So with that, we'll all come together and there's a lot of details available about how we are going to celebrate Gaura Purnima this year. A lot of sponsorship opportunities. So if you're all inspired, please come together and help to celebrate a grand Gaura Purnima festival this year as well. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Smaranam Prabhu ki.
Jai.
Yeah, couple of questions.
Yeah. So any thoughts, any questions, any comments? We have a few minutes here. Yes, Prabhu.
So first of all, Prabhu, thank you so much for taking us back in that time. And I was just feeling how fortunate, the devotees would be there when all these great personalities came down. So my thought was that, okay, we have Gaur Purnima coming up, and this tradition has been going on since then. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, now of course we have Gaur Nitai deities here as well, but we don't have eyes to see God, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu. So how can we see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu like Srinivas Acharya saw and all the devotees saw? this Gaur Purnima.
Yeah, so wonderful point. Actually, I want to say about few words about that, right? Like so.
Generally, we think that we use our organs like eyes for seeing, um, tongue for tasting, ears for hearing, right? So generally, Vaishnavas, they see through their ears. By hearing, they can see. When a pure Vaishnava delivers a class, right, you in the audience, you would have felt the ecstasy. You would have actually been transformed to that place and you would have been experiencing and you'll be seeing all what has happened, right? So that's what I would say, that you could, by reading, by meditating, and by immersing yourself in the pastimes of our Vaishnava Acharyas, you can transform yourself there and you can see that, right? And then if you continue to do this, one day probably the Mahaprabhu can come in your dreams, right? All these acharyas can come to your dreams and they can reveal. Yesterday we talked about Brahat Bhavata Murta, right? Sanatan Goswami, he had this revelation and then he documented this uh, story of Gopakumar and Narada Muni going and trying to find out who is the most uh, recipient of Krishna's mercy, right? So he didn't see through his eyes, but it was through his revelation it happened, right? So anyway, basically, if you had experienced today the same moment of seeing, you can notice that you can see through your ears too, right? So if we as a conditioned soul can also see through our ears, we offer our bhogas to the Lord. So the Lord can accept our offering through his eyes. So he doesn't have to take his hands and eat, but he can accept our offering through his eyes as well. So, yes. Mataji.
Hare Krishna, thank you for that wonderful and I just wanted, and thank you for the beautiful class and also the clear laying out of all the persons. I think that's very helpful. But I just wanted to make one more comment on Alankar Prabhu's question. So a few days ago, it was the disappearance day of my Param Gurudev Srila Bhakti Daita Madhav Maharaj. And when he first went to see Srila Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur in Mayapur, he was a young man who was traveling with his young friend, and he and there's a long story which I won't tell, but Srila Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur asked him, what have you been doing? And he said, we've been going and having darshan of various deities. And so then Srila Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, should I wait?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like this. So Srila Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, so you have been going to various temples and having darshan. And so you saw all these deities. And Param Gurudev said yes. And he said, did you really see them? And did you get any result from that? And then Param Gurudev recounted that he was in a quandary because he was thinking, well, this is, what can I say? This is a sadhu, so I'm not supposed to, lie to a sadhu. So he said, well, actually, no. I don't know, what was the result, but, we've heard that we should do this. And then Srila Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said this very famous quote that you may have heard. Do not try to see Krishna, but act in such a way that Krishna will want to see you. So that's Srila Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
Thank you, madam. Yeah, we have a few minutes over here, so we'll try to wrap up. Thank you very much.
Let's give a big round of applause to Krishna. He said that is his first class, but we don't believe that. Maybe one class. So let's stand up on the mat this time.
First class first.
Let us do really good.